51 weeks out of the year, Henderson, North Carolina is a small city of some 15,000 people. But for one weekend, the population swells with car lovers who attend the annual Show and Shine and Drag Racing Hall of Fame events. Up and down both sides of the street are stunning examples of race cars and show cars. And today, Dream Rides will check out the local talent. Welcome to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. Some car shows take place in a parking lot or a field, but the Henderson Show and Shine event takes it to the street with hundreds of customized cars gleaming from curbside of the main highway through town. The show is block after block of both big and small blocks.
The car is a 1931 Ford Model A. This car somebody had started a project. Basically, they did the chassis and found a body and they gave up. And I went and bought it and basically spent about 6 months on it. I channeled it, dropped the body down so it would look nice, and built it totally as a rat rod and got it finished and backed it out of the garage and kind of looking at it, and I said, I just don't know if I can do the whole rust thing and all that, and pushed it back in the garage and took it all apart and painted it and chromed it. I kind of don't know what to call it. I don't know, it can't really be a rat rod, but it's really not a street rod either, so I kind of fall lost in the middle somewhere. The paint is all House of Colors paint, and what I did, I shot it black, then shot the red metal flake over it. Didn't really want full coverage, so then I didn't like the contrast, so I mixed red candy concentrate in the clear and sprayed red candy over top of the flake, and it kind of blended it all together and turned out a really nice color, but it's two totally different colors between the shade and the sunshine. There's probably 2 gallons of epoxy primer on it, and then there's probably 15 coats of clear on it to get it, because you got to, with its metal flake, it's rough. So you got to clear it and sand it, clear it and sand it until you get it slick. The engine is a 498 cubic inch Chevrolet, aluminum heads on it, 871 blower. And this blower goes back to the day my father originally had this supercharger on an alcohol funny car back in the 1970s. Is how far back that blower goes. It's been sitting on the shelf for years. When I decided to build this, I said I'm going to use it. You know, originally the gas tanks were up front on these cars, just underneath the cowl, so that was where you put the gas in them originally. And so I just kept that, but the gas tank's in the rear now. I really enjoy the build more than anything else. When I get the car finished, you know, it's okay, but I enjoy doing the building part.
Our next dream ride is a magnificent Mopar muscle car.
It's a 1965 Plymouth Barracuda. I wanted one when I was in high school, and I went to buy one, and I got drafted, so I never did get it. And I was on vacation about 6 years ago when we found this up in Ohio. And we've been working on it now for 5.5 years. It was runnable, but we had to redo all the body, everything. The original color was a blue, but it was a flat paint, enamel, and we just spiced it up a little bit with the pearl. When I found the car, the interior had been done in it, and but everything else was all the pieces. And we were thinking about painting another color, but once the interior was done in it, we didn't want to have to redo all of that again, so we went back with a blue. It's got the 273. It's been redone, but it's back to stock specs. Everything's original. I've had a couple of offers, but I want to keep it for a while anyway. I don't want to get rid of it yet.
There are plenty of trucks in the show, and they're workhorses, not show ponies.
1946 Chevy truck, C3100 half-ton.
When he got it, it was a total surprise. He had sold a Jeep we had that I used to haul plants around in, and I complained for about a year that I did not have anything to haul my plants around in. So he thought, well, I'm going to fix you. So we went away on vacation. When we came home, opened the garage door, and there she sat. I just dropped the luggage, ran to the truck, and we went out on a new cruise for about 2 hours, left the luggage in the driveway, and came back home, and I loved it.
The condition that it was in, that I first found it in, was in decent shape. It had a regular paint job on it. The engine was kind of old, but the whole frame is original, and all the body pieces are still original.
Have the truck a total of 4 years, but we had it completely restored about 2 years ago.
We swapped out the motor. We put in a Chevy Ramjet 350 motor, and it's a fuel-injected thing. So we've got power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, the whole 9 yards.
Well, it was supposed to be a work truck, but I'm back to not being able to haul my plants around again.
Coming up on Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is a trio of classics owned by a car-loving husband and wife. Stay with us. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, the world's largest source for GMA body parts and accessories. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Henderson, North Carolina, and Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products. It's not unusual to find 1 or 2 custom classics at the show with the same owner, but we found a half dozen rides belonging to a husband and wife. Here's our favorite trio from their stable.
It's a 1951 Mercury. Originally the car was a 4-door sedan. We took the back door out and added it to the front door, and then we got a fiberglass front end, a fiberglass nose on it. Had to reinforce the chassis and naturally cut the top off. I got a Carson top for it. It's a fiberglass top, and it does have the windows roll up and down. It's got a 350 Chevrolet engine in it, a 400 transmission. It's got a Camaro subframe and a Camaro rear in it. It had mag wheels on it when I got it, and I put the gangster white walls and the Lancer hubcaps. I just detailed it out the way I liked it. Everybody wonders what kind of fuel injection it is, but it's a homemade stack. You got Christmas balls in the top of it. Well, she never complained about me doing it, and she seen a 57 Chevrolet Vision 4, and she said that's what she wanted. A turquoise convertible, so I found one and built it.
It's very big. It feels like driving a tank, but it's fun. People look and point and wave and stare, and it's fun. It's a complete off-frame restoration. He did every bit of it himself. He's the master. He knows what he's doing. He's got an amazing talent for that kind of thing. We don't drive it much. We take it out every once in a while on the weekends. We drive it to car shows or cruise-ins occasionally, that kind of thing. I'm done. He's the one keeping an eye out all the time for what's coming next.
It's a 1935 Chevrolet dump truck, all steel. Well, we took it and put it on a Blazer chassis. It's still got all the wood in it. It's got the wood up on the bottom of it. It's still got the wood in all the doors. And it's got a 350 Chevrolet motor, 350 transmission, and a 4-wheel drive. Well, the suspension is, like I say, it's a Blazer chassis, but we took and molded the whole chassis in, had all the leaf chrome plated, the rear end housing chrome plated, the back rear end housing, the transfer case, everything was chromed on. My wife says chrome don't get you home, but I love chrome because we done been walking on Harley Davidsons and hot rods all our life. Well, it's green, that's the only thing I can tell you, but the fenders is marbleized like a bowling ball, and then it's got 3 different colors of green. And actually this truck's been built about 20, 22 years. So, you know, it's hard to remember a whole lot about it.
Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products will be right back with a Dodge Dart looking to enforce the law. Stay with us. Welcome back to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. This weekend in Henderson is a mix of a car show and a street fair with all sorts of food and entertainment. Everyone gets into the spirit of fun, and even the local police force can strut their stuff and show off. Our next car is one that should make the force feel proud.
1962 Dodge Dart 330. Okay, so I bought this from Mike Leaf's auction, our local auction here in Raleigh, North Carolina. He had it for sale for a couple of years. It was in his collection, and it was purported to be a police car, a real police car from Michigan State, restored in Washington State, and he picked it up with another group of cars in Washington State. I can't confirm that, looking at the numbers and all that. I know they didn't come with that engine, so the 413 Wedge was not a police-approved engine, although maybe somebody of some importance may have gotten one. But anyway, so I would say that it's probably a tribute car. A little bit of a police car and a little bit of drag car. It's got the cutouts in the exhaust. It's got the cross ram 2.4s. It's like that movie. I forget what it was when the officer took his mechanic in and he says, "You see that number on the speedometer? The next time I come back, it better run that." You know, so maybe that was the guy that said, "Hey, put the 413 Wedge in there. I want it to do what it's supposed to do." Of course, it's got the light, which everybody wants to know, does the light work? And yes, it does. And of course, it's got the siren. It's got the original radio that was in it as a police car. Of course, I had the brochure for it that shows what the police car was, what it had with it, what it looked like. And a good friend of mine, his friend does his history for Highway Patrol, and he saw the car and he said, "Be right back." Got his book, whipped it out, and he said, "There's your car right there." And sure enough, Michigan State Police car. It looked exactly like it, except for it didn't have the, I forget what he called it, but the bar on the hood that said State Police. But other than that, he said it was pretty close. And then it also has some drag stuff along with it, you know, the cutouts in the exhaust, and it's got a locker differential in the back of it, so it's pulls pretty good. It is a one-year only styling. When this car came out in 1962, it's interesting to talk to some of the people that were in this era. They say when that car came out, it was the ugliest thing that they had ever seen. You know, it's like, you know, you had to put a stake around its neck to get the dog to play with. It was terrible. But as the years grow on, you know, things, you know, get better, you know, as you look back at them. So I guess somebody decided that, you know, they had seen one in the rearview mirror long enough when they were a kid. Maybe they wanted to rebuild one to see what it looked like and drive it. So that's why it was done. The first night I had it running down 540, this Mustang comes up beside me, gives me the old wah, you know, and I reached over there and flipped the lights on, and all you see, rather than this big race, you know, when something happened, thumbs come out of the windows. He thought that was pretty cool, you know. So, you know, if you use it sparingly, I don't think the law gets too upset about it.
Our next two Dream Rides are a pair of Pontiacs from the fabulous 50s.
Well, this is a 1957 Pontiac Safari wagon. Really extremely rare. I saw it at a Good Guy show, and my good friend Bill had a 57 car, and I just thought it would be fun to have a 57 wagon to set it beside of him at the car show. So that's how I ended up with the car. But it was a beautiful car. Price was right. It has a 472 Firebird engine in it. It's got automatic in the floor. It's really fun to drive, air conditioned. 1957 Pontiacs, you just don't see. This car drives like a new car. It really does. The people I bought it from had just gotten off of a trip, and they drove all the way down Route 66. They drove 3,600 miles on it, so I figured it was a good car when I bought it. I keep it garage. I don't take it out a lot. I try to drive it once every 2 or 3 weeks around the block, but that's about it.
It's a 1957 Pontiac Star Chief two-door hardtop. I've had the car a little over 2 years. I actually purchased it in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I had been looking for a 57 Pontiac for several years because when I got out of high school and got a job, I bought a brand new 57 Pontiac, which was quite some time ago. I've done most of the work was done, but I've done quite a little bit of work chroming it. I've dressed up and cleaned it up, as well as some of the interior, added a console and a few other little things to it. I'm in a car club right here in Henderson, and we travel around to different shows, and you very seldom see a 57 Pontiac. I drive it all over the place. How is it? Anywhere I go in it, you find as long as you put plenty of gas in it. That's actually a 58 Pontiac engine. It's 1 year newer. That's why I have the 370 written on the air cleaner. That was the size of the 58 engines. All the suspension and everything has been redone. I made a few changes, but most of it was done when I got the car. And it has disc brakes on the front. It's been lowered in the suspension, and it drives down the road just fine. If you're out on the road, just like you can go in speed limit down the major highways and everything, no trouble. I'm going to keep it. I got the feeling it'll probably outlast me, but I'm going to keep the car.
We'll have something fishy from AMC when Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products returns in a moment. This edition of Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products, is being brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Evabo Rust, super safe rust remover. And by Steel Rubber, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Welcome back to Dream Rides, presented by Steel Rubber Products. At the other end of downtown Henderson are drag racing cars that are involved in the East Coast Drag Times Hall of Fame reunion. And if you're a quarter-mile fanatic, you might recognize those cars. A drag race fan will also appreciate this Anglo-American blend.
This is a 1948 Anglia English Ford. My father used to drag race them in 1963, and I just loved them, fell in love with them, and so we just decided we were going to build one. This one's got a 95 Corvette engine in it. L460 transmission, 4-speed automatic with a 8-inch Ford rear end. It's got candy paint, it's Sims paint. It's 14 coats of base and 4 coats of clear. It's electric orange is what it's called. It was pretty bad. You know, a lot of panel work. Fat Man Fabrication in Charlotte did the chassis, front end suspension, and they mounted the motor and everything for me. So, you know, it's been a long haul since I've had the car since 1998. Back in 1948, it was only an 8 horsepower, and it was an economy car. So basically, to get the family back and forth to the store. The way the motor's sitting in, it's pushed back toward the firewall, and me being a pretty heavy guy and the seat set back, I can lift the front wheels. It's not going to be that exciting, but they will come off the ground. It's all leather interior. It's B&M shifter. Just you know, it's air, tilt, cruise. It's got about anything that your modern day car would want, and the good thing is I get 25 miles a gallon.
One of the rarest cars at the show is becoming an endangered species.
This car is a 1966 AMC Marlin. They made 4,547 in 1966. Best estimate is that about 10% are left, which is about 500 cars. And of those, about 10% left are 4-speeds, of which this is one of the surviving 4-speed cars. I had a Marlin in high school, and it was a family car, and I sold it, always regretted it. So when I had the opportunity to find another one and restore it, it satisfied that urge to get rid of some demons, because I always felt guilty for getting rid of that car. Well, originally, AMC, which was Rambler at the time in 1964, designed the car to be a smaller car called the Tarpon, and that was the prototype, and it was built on the American chassis. But they wanted to put a V8 in the car, and the V8 at the time would not fit in the smaller chassis, so they had to put it in the mid-size car, and that became the car you see today. It was a California car that I got in 2001, and it did have rust in it, and I took it apart, restored it, and put it back together. Between 4 and 5 years is what it took to restore this car. The hardest part to find on this car was the trunk emblem. I finally found one on eBay, and it's a unique story in that it was a gentleman who worked at the foundry that made the trunk emblems that were a vendor to AMC. And he had brought one home, mounted it on his wall, and when he passed away, his family had put it on eBay. And so it's a trunk emblem that never made it to the assembly line. But I'd like to think that he's up there smiling somewhere, knowing that it finally made it onto a restored car. Almost everything on the car is unique. The shifter's unique, the driveline is unique, the engine's unique. You know, it's like the forgotten V8. I mean, that's why it took so long. I will own it until I expire. The car's not for sale. There's just too much time, money invested. There's too much sentimental value. I couldn't replace it. So I have a lot of fun at car shows and educating people on what the car is and hopefully inspiring people to find one and restore it.
As we wind up our visit to the Henderson Show and Shine, we had to check out a Caddy that was found in a forest, rescued and restored.
So I got this car. It was a donor car off a tobacco trailer that somebody was throwing away. So, and that's how I picked it up out of the woods, and that's where I started. I've got about a year invested in the whole car. A lot of hard time and just trying to find parts that you can't find for a 40 Cadillac anymore. So you just build them and make them. First off, suicided the doors. The front fenders I had to cut and move those in 3 inches, and widen the rear fenders 3 inches to match the front. Then I had to make a custom frame, which took a 47 frame out of a Chevrolet and stretched it and lowered it to get the chassis to fit under it. The engine, I used a 454 big block Chevrolet, and I used a 700R transmission, and I used a 9-inch Ford for the rear. And I used actually a Cadillac interior in it, so it came out good. That's fit perfect. I custom made the dash and everything, but I used 2001 Cadillac interior. I couldn't find any original headlights for the Cadillac, so I used a 40 model Hudson headlight for it and just placed them in a different position and everything. And on the grill section, I took and did away with part of the grill because I didn't have both sections, so I did a fill-in on it and just used the center section. The paint, I used House of Colors, the cherry pearl they had. It was just an odd color. Never seen one, so I decided to paint it that color. I built this car 15 years ago, and we go to like the Charlotte Good Guys, Pigeon Forge, Columbus, Ohio. We go to a lot of car shows, and of course it's got air conditioning on too now. So, and we just drive it. It's a driver, no trailer. It's stolen if it's on a trailer.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Dream Rides presented by Steel Rubber Products. But be sure to join us next time when we visit Vegas and check out the cool creations at the SEMA show. See you then.